Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, finding it is so disturbing that Don Connell, a very interesting human being from the United States of America that has been supporting the Eritrean liberation from long time ago, has now turned against Eritreans in general and teaming up with this terrorist group called Brigade Hamadu, and I feel sorry for that. Don Connell, I have a question for you. In fact, I will do it in Tigrinya so that they can tell you. They can translate it to you and our people can listen to it. But this is for you, Mr. Don Connell. I appreciate what you did for the Eritreans through the years, sir. I appreciate your dedication for the Eritrean struggle for independence through the years, sir. I appreciate everything you did for Eritreans, but at the end of the day, the struggle hasn't gotten the Eritreans anywhere. Everything is at a standstill. In the United States of America has been one of the problems to the liberation of Eritreans, in my understanding, sir. But you have kept quiet. I suspect the foul play. So now I will go to the Tigrinya version. The Kerebaz Zarabazi, Dan Connell. بتعمل بزح نجر زجبرة أبي إرتراوي بتعمل أبعمناتنا بحالي يكون أفتناتنا نا intellectuals يكونوا ولا نايتي struggle كله نزيتات كله فضي أولي روي. Is it grudge politics? Grudge politics دي زكاي زلوا مالتين حرق رقوت كم توم نايكالوت اليوم زلنا ناتنا نسوم دي تفي زلوا ولا سلاب حقين عدو يزجل كزلوا أمريكا. Suspect of foul play. Is he serving the interests of the United States of America or that of the Eritreans? Because as we know, Brigade Hamadu Zubaharu comes a عينة سبات كما يجيروا السجن نبعتهم كيلو.
تعالى من قول ما من لبلو تهلش نقري فنداتها لبلو وطاته لبلو. إذا زاهد عم باقرنت يدو زاو تشكماتشو قوازاتشو انتقللاتشو إقاي بارت قبالاتشو نياقا يسرام إذا ياسلام لك بيه كوتتام عم باقرنت ترسياوت عم باقرنت يارجنو تاكبابرن نور نيالكوت كذا دمو welcome to the world ወደ ዲሞክራሲ ዓለም እንኳን ደህና መጣችሁ መሪዎቻችንን መስደብ ማፍታችን ነው ትላለ
Well, Don Connell is the Atobio. Tergumuliuchum, Haraido, Brigade Howard, Tergumuliuchum. Well, the Yomium instigates go to the Ethiopians. Now, it's Ornetka to home to tell you, Netuncle to his bitat. Brigade Hamadu, the Guform the Lo, the Atomohanum, Gorulane to survive.
እንኳን ኢሳያስ አብይም ይሰደባል አብይ ያው እንግዲህ ወጣት ነው ሸበላ ነው ያራዳ ልጅ ነው ፈጣን ነው ስማርት ነው ሼባው ባኮፍ ነው ያልኩት የስንዴድ አውልፔትን አርፋ ተቀመጥ እዛ ነው
violence is coming towards the Eritreans from the Ethiopian side of the island, and yet Don Connell is accusing the Eritreans of making violence against Ethiopians. I think it's unfair. Very unfair.
ምን ላባብልላችሁ ንጉሰ ነገስት ምናምን ነገር አማራችሁ ወለበል እንዲሁ ነገር አይሰራምኛ አርፈ ተቀመጥ ነው ያለው አርፎ ይቀመጣል አርፎ
ጊዜያ ዘለና መድረክ ተአፋፍን
4 ኪሎ ከተማ አዲስ አበባ ንተለማዋን ሎሚ 18 ተጉንበት 2024 ዘካይዶ ሴሚናር በዓወት ከም ዝዛዘሞ ካብቲ ቦታ ዝመጸ ማሕበረታ ይረድእ ኣብቲ ህዝባዊ ኣኼባ ሓደ ሽሕ ዝኾኑ መንስያት ከም ዝተሳተፉ ዝጠቅስ ማሕበረታ ዝተፈላለዩ ትሕዝቶ ዘለዎም
Don Connell, do you really believe these are Eritreans? The Eritreans, you know them. You met them back there during the struggle. Do you think these are Eritreans trying to liberate the Eritreans? By the way, what are they going to liberate about? Which Eritrea? Okay, I live it for you. I live it for you, sir.
لختي كم زتمحلالفون نتوما بس ማረዲሎ
ጊዜያ ዘለና መድረክ ተአፋፍን ጽጉር በመሆኑ መጠን ጂኦፖለቲካው ዞባ ኣብ ዘይርግኡ ኩነታት ዝርከበሉ እዋን ስለ ዝኾነ ህላዌና ንምውሓስ ድሕነት ህዝብናን ንሙር
ከም ዘይወክሎም ብኣንጻሩ ካዳ ነቲ ስርዓት ንምእላይ ሂወቶም ክሕልፉ ድልዋት ምዃኖም ከም ዝገለጽሎም ኣረጊ
Are you trying to support these guys to go to Eritrea and fight, Mr. Duncan? Do you really justify that? But let's go and see how the Europeans look at them.
Frankly, utterly shocking. I know you've been active on social media with your fury on it. I mean, what's gone on here? How have we ended up in this situation where frontline police officers have been left so exposed that I suspect they were terrified with those scenes?
You got there because you underestimated these bandits. You got there because you thought that they were politicians against the Eritrean people. No, against the Eritrean government for democracy. You were caught by surprise. I feel sorry for you.
Those are 4 officers yesterday of 40,000 officers that were assaulted in the past year. Frontline police officers are cannon fodder. They've become the Aunt Sallies of society. They have weak leaders. We have a mayor that is completely lost and undermines the Metropolitan Police. We have a government that promised so much and delivers so little. And we have frontline men and women that get up every day against the torrent of abuse on the streets, media condemnation, and stand between good and bad and right or wrong. They cannot win. And as a result of that...
For what we know, the Eritreans have always been peaceful. This is the first time in the experience of Europeans and Ethiopians and then Americans that we see this kind of violence. The violent group cannot be Eritreans, period, because Eritreans have no record as such. So this war, the Tigrayans instigated by the TPLF, basically doing terrorism against the Eritrean people because they lost the war.
You see police officers almost standing strident, not knowing what to do. Burglary is a priority. Robbery is a priority.
Norma, you talk about leadership, and something went badly wrong there, where it took what was obviously quite a long period of time before essentially the riot squad arrived with the right equipment.
You're right. Multiculturalism, mass immigration. You're right. Multiculturalism, sadly, is not working in Britain. We have hundreds of thousands of people that come to this country that we welcome. Some sadly hate us, and they hate us so much that they take to the streets. They can cause a demonstration just like they did yesterday.
Now, the Eritreans, sir, we always appreciate the generosity of Europeans and Americans. You have given us refuge in your countries. We love it. I, for myself, is educated in America. I used to live in Germany as a refugee back in the 70s. We thank you very much. And you know the Eritreans in the history of their struggle have never been in this kind of situation. This cannot be Eritreans, ladies and gentlemen. These are Tigrayans. Tigrayans affiliated with TPLF. Okay, disturbing the whole thing, pretending Eritreans. They don't even have a flag right here. I'm glad the Europeans have found out this out. What we got to do is actually go to the root of the problem and figure out who is all behind all this kind of thing.
Without any prior warning. As a result of that, the immediate units will be sent, will be unarmed officers. They won't be public order officers. They would just be the frontline response officers. And as you highlighted, and I saw and everyone else saw, there were countless dozens of young people, men, armed. So those officers...
How can you be armed in the streets of Germany and the refugee at the same time? Who's giving up the arms, by the way? What is the police doing, ladies and gentlemen? Terrorism in Europe, in the streets.
Could only do so much. You cannot take on 100+ violent, angry men. And as a result of that, the Commissioners Reserve, which are the TSG officers, would have been alerted immediately. And it sometimes can take 10 or 15 minutes for them to arrive. Now, the thing is here, Richard, let me tell you the crux. If any of those officers got out their baton and charged at any of them suspects, armed suspects, and God forbid they intended to strike their arm or across the chest or leg, and inadvertently they struck them across the head, the following morning, the media and these groups that hate us so much and all these other mandy-pandy judges and everyone else that brings this country to its knees with their...
As liberalists just shouting around, talking about democracy. Democracy doesn't come with thoughts, and Europeans have never done it. Can neither the Africans do it in Europe? This is terrorism. You got to stop it. You got to stop it. The governments in Europe got to stop it, because this has nothing to do with the Eritrean people's agony or frustration about politics. Politics cannot be done with stones and rocks. Okay, democracy is a process. We know our country needs some change, but we are also happy and satisfied with its pace. We're only 30 years. 30-year-old nation cannot do miracles, ladies and gentlemen. It's all instigated by the enemies of the Eritrean people. No Eritrean people support these guys and stop them. Please stop them for the sake of peace in Europe.
Their silly decisions will demand that officer is suspended.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the hoodlums terrorizing Europe. Put them in jail and deport them selectively. Do not attack any other Eritreans peacefully living in Europe. We're part of the European community. We're part of the African community. We have been part of the United States community, Canadian community. And these are the hoodlums, the Tigrian hoodlums from TPLF that are disturbing the momentum, the peace, and everything, the peaceful coexistence. Okay, the harmony between Europeans and Eritreans. These are not Eritreans, ladies and gentlemen. These are stooges of the TPLF frustrated in the war. They have lost the war and now they're attacking the Eritrean people. They're not capable of fighting the Eritrean government, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, they have to be selectively deported. Selective deportation. Please don't touch the rest of our peoples. This is one of them. This is one of the terrorist organizers. Right now, he's been in America telling them more to be violent, actually. These are the hoodlums that are running this criminal organization. This is media, the core media in Europe, in England, that has been the cause of all this mess and frustrations and suicides and genocides in Africa. This is a criminal, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you. And then this guy died at the end of the day with the violence, and somebody's making the money. Someone bites the dust, another cashes in the money in the pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, these guys have to be stopped. They have to be stopped. They have to be deported. And here is another hoodlum in Holland. They're not educated, ladies and gentlemen. They're making money off the YouTube. Here is another hoodlum, part of the gangsters. Terrorize people, streets in Europe. No more peace in Europe just because of these idiots. Eritreans are coming there, okay, to get refuge, to go to school, to improve themselves. But these guys are just right there to violate. They don't even understand democracy and the culture of the Europeans. No, they don't understand. They're not educated. Therefore, the European governments, this is another media functioning in Europe also. Everybody's making money. It's unorganized criminal groups. Actually, organized criminals together making a huge group called Brigade Hamado. And this has been a victim in Israel, ladies and gentlemen, and this tragedy continues. Therefore, what I say is European countries have to stop. A leader in America recently been in court for $8 million money laundering, because Somebody sued them. They're suing each other now. They're fighting over the money. Who's going to make the money? Who's going to how they divide it? Nobody knows. These are guys, they cannot work. They have no capacity to work. One of them is this guy who lives in Indiana. Ladies and gentlemen, making money in mass from the people. These are hoodlums that we have to watch out in America. And please, Europeans, take good care of yourselves and take good care of the criminals out there, and we will follow them here in America. We're not going to stop. But Eritreans have no tenacity to fight in the streets, or they have no nature of violence, actually, to be violent against the government. We have no country to liberate. Our country is liberated. We can oppose the government, but peacefully. And this is one of them also. This is one of them. He is a poison. Therefore, what we're talking about here is all these people are making problems to Europe and to Ethiopia and then to United States of America. Right now, the only place they got is Ethiopia. The only place they got is Ethiopia. Because Abiy has gone crazy for some reason I don't understand. But this is a story. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate the Europeans' efforts making all this kind of development, stopping these hoodlums basically from the streets of Europe so Europeans can actually live in their country peacefully. Another hoodlum right here. All these uneducated hoodlums are making a lot of money. They say, German, one way or another, they got to go to jail, if not deported to their native countries. And thank you. Thank you. I'm here to talk a little bit about my brother, Don Connell. And Don Connell has now been the supporter of this group. Okay? እምበር ብትግርኛ ክዛረብ ሕጂ ምክንያቱም ብዙሕ ዝዛረቦ ዘረባ ኣለኒ ንዳን ኮነል ትግርኛውን ይርድኦ ስለ ዝኾነ እሶምን ክነግርዎ ስለ ዝኾኑ ሞ ኣብዚ ዝዛረቦ ነገር ድማ ተነቃፍ ስለ ዝኾነ ደገይረ ዳን ካነል ዝበሃል እዚ ይበሃል ንኤርትራ ብዙሕ ነገር ገይሩላ እዩ ስትራግል ግዜ ሕጂ ግን ተጠውዩ ንሃገሩ ብጣዕሚ ዘሕዝን ኣብ ዳላስ ከይዶም ነይሮም ብሄሊኮፕተር ገለ መለታት ኣብኡ ገይሮም ነይሮም ዋዕላ ኣብኡ ዝተሓላለፎ ዳን ካነል had the guy actually to transmit this message to the public. Right on it. The public حليفو كم عينت message دقيرة.
بس حجي خمينا زلنا تتحيزنا دون خيدا لنا. اوكي برجدنا حمود بسمين امريكا زلنا قلنا زي ما نخمر السقاقري تحتيهم كل تدراوهم ستاهم.
Of an essay titled Enough, Critique of Eritrea's Post-Liberation Politics, which incidentally is available in a PDF file on the articles page of my website, which you can get to at danconnell.net. As I wrote then, the closing of public political space, the shutdown of the private press, the arrest and indefinite detention of key figures in the liberation struggle, and the imposition of a coercive regime on the population at large was a giant step backward for the objectives, the values, and the vision that I had chronicled in my news articles throughout the liberation struggle. And they turned me from a stalwart supporter of more than a quarter century to a reluctant but determined critic. I remain so. This was truly, however, one of the most difficult decisions of my life for its very survival. Whether to remain silent or to stand up and fight back. I submit to you that the mass movement you're building today out of efforts like Yaakov, Brigade Amadou, Bright Future, among others, could finally turn the situation around. And doing so has never been more urgent, as Eritrea's very soul is at risk. Not only from the accumulated weight of repression and the hopelessness it has engendered, but from the added impact of Eritrea's deep and ongoing intervention in Ethiopia's civil war. An intervention that was done not in defense.
What do you think the Eritrean government involved with all the case out there wasn't but under occupation? بزي حدا نقرسي آتيوم بزي حدا مخناتنا بإثيوبيا آتيوم إدوم آتيوم إرتراوان بالله سمايز.
Defense of the nation, but in service to the vanity and ambition of its corrupted political leadership.
Well, don't you think the gain of regaining Bademo was an advantage for the Eritrean people? ربحا بزيف الليبرال الإرتراوي بعدما مش تقبلنا ايوه حقرنا مش ونينا ايوه السو ربحا نبرون.
In short, this is not the Eritrea for which your forebears struggled and sacrificed, nor is it one I recognize after almost 50 years since I entered the liberated areas with EPLF and ELF and committed myself to that struggle.
Well, you're saying you're disappointed about developments in Ethiopia, in Eritrea. Have you ever checked what the United States was doing against it? You think that was not, don't you think that's one of the reasons that actually Eritrea declined to do what it had to do? Nevertheless, survived some kind of way.
Now, however, it's your turn, and I salute you for taking it on. The basics of what needs to happen are well known. First, the establishment of a transitional council that includes all major stakeholders and has a specified mandate and end date. Then, the release of political prisoners, including those held for questioning policies, engaging in banned religious practices, trying to flee the country, or taking part in other acts of resistance. Third, a return to the original 18-month terms of national service, coupled with a phased demobilization of those who have served and a comprehensive reassessment of the whole program. Fourth, the opening of Eritrea's economy to absorb demobilized conscripts, release prisoners, and returning refugees into the labor force, and the lifting of restrictions on independent businesses. Needless to say, international funding to support such initiatives is necessary, including a transition of the education and healthcare systems from a reliance on conscripts to one staffed by workers with living wages. And finally, there needs to be a constitutional conference to either reform the one ratified in 1997 or draft a new one, showing in a convincing way that the country is on the road to open, accountable governance, and a truth and reconciliation process through which to face what the country has been through without setting the stage for future division and conflict. That is, doing it without forgetting what happened or exacting revenge for its own sake. I'm convinced that your generation can be a foundational part of this, not as an alternative government as the various opposition parties of my generation have proposed, but as an organic part of a broad-based, inclusive reconstruction process that will finally fulfill the promise of Eritrea's liberation. The critical piece of this is in the way you get to it. The danger, as we've already seen in Eritrea and elsewhere, is that doing so without changing what that power is. I will end by saying your generation offers the best hope for Eritrea's future, and I wish you success in your struggle to shape it.
I'm definitely sure your generation actually will be a solution to Eritrea, of course, because all the time the young generation basically makes a change, right? But what kind of generation? They have to be Eritreans, right? Not mixed up, messed up Eritreans, pretenders of Eritreans from the Tigray regime. And he knows that for sure. Every generation has responsibility for its own being. Yet, you have come here knowing for sure that these individuals are stooges of Abiy and stooges of the TPLF. And yet, you came here to tell them that they're the future of Eritreans. I feel sorry for you, man. I definitely feel sorry for you.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's enough. Listen, you man, with the Chicago Burtu Sabin, Aziz and no Abidzello Hankol Kidab, no problem. The transitional council can deliver Eritrea, we know that, but let's take care of it. We Eritreans want to take care of it ourselves. I'm not going to go. There are down counter. I'll let you step away from this issue because it's none of your business. Because you're an American and we are Eritreans, so we can take care of this ourselves. You don't have to be that concerned. for us, because if that was so the case, you could have been so concerned about other dictatorships in Africa too. Okay, and the effect of Western colonialism, neo-colonialism in Africa, that has been challenged very nicely in West Africa. No comments about that. Are we the only countries that needs transitional council, sir? Are we the only people, the only countries that have political prisoners? Yes, I support political prisoners must be free because they were jailed unjustly. But is this really a matter of Eritrea? Only all the whole world political prisoners are being jailed. Are you defending the political prisoners around the world, sir? Only in Eritrea. Religious practices. We know that two religions comfortably and harmonically live in Eritrea. They support one another. Are you aware of that? What are you talking about? Religious equality in Eritrea. Which one are you talking about? I don't understand, sir. And then is that much of a serious problem? Serious problem as such? To the point you went to support these hoodlums, these terrorists, known terrorists, to overthrow the Eritrean government, and do you think they can do it? The 18 months national service, sir, we cannot do it. I'm an opposition, not opposition. I'm a centrist. I'm not a stooge of the government, nor am I a stooge of the, whatever they call it, the resistance. Okay, but what I'm trying to tell you is 18 months service. It's definitely what we all want to do, but are we capable to do that right now? With all the problems we had, with all the aggressions we had, with all the selective punishment forwarded to us by your government in the United States of America, so with all that strangulations, with all that sanctions going on, were we able to actually change this 18-month service into something else? But why are you worried, by the way? Is this your business? Why don't the Eritreans worry about it, sir? What are you concerned about? Economic stimulation is for Eritreans also, yeah, but are we in the worst shape in Africa? Why are you attacking Eritreans only? I understand if you criticize it from centrist point of view, but you are here one-sided, extremist. I think you are adopting the American policy, to my understanding, and you're serving the United States instead of the Eritrean people in this case. And I don't blame you because you are an American. But me, as an Eritrean, I also have to worry about you. Sir, the 18-month restriction is going to be done when the time comes, and stay out of this. Right now, we're not ready to do that. We're not ready to do that. The refugee crisis, yes, we want our refugees back home. But it takes time. It's a process, okay? And there are millions of refugees around the world from all over the countries. And you cannot be only worried for the Eritreans unless you have a special reason. I don't understand what it is. You can explain it yourself. Thank you. 1997 Constitution or another one, we will make that one too, sir. I understand it. Thank you for reminding us that we need Constitution and truth and reconciliation at the same time. But this is a process under the control of the Eritrean intelligentsia, the Eritrean intellectuals. It is under our control. We're only waiting for time. But your appreciation of a terrorist group as such, and knowing exactly what they are and who they're instigating against and who's actually behind them. I feel sorry, Duncan. I just don't feel so good about this. I can tell you a lot of stories that you can do in your country. That I can tell you. I can tell you. From mass incarcerations, drug overdose, drunk driving deaths, the sex industry, homelessness in America. I can tell you a lot of things. The Ukraine issue, Africa as a whole versus the United States of America. Colonialism, call it neo-colonialism, whatever. Mike Hammer going back and forth with the Wayanists to cry. Nothing, you're not talking about all this kind of things. When your country goes there, no problem. It's only the Eritreans in this situation. The discrimination going on in America. I can say a lot of things. Same-sex marriages, ladies and gentlemen, 1.2 million. I appreciate that. It's a freedom for them, for the people to do that. But this is not African culture. We're not that civilized to do this, sir. But we have been pressured to do in Ghana, in Rwanda, and also, what else? In Uganda. Therefore, we have a problem with this culturally. It's not indigenous to the African countries. You call it democracy. No, we don't. We don't call it democracy. And democracy, by the way, is not a Western philosophy only. Democracy may have been started in America, but democracy is a concept of humankind in general. Democracy is universal. And democracy has to be done based on the cultures, not only on how the United States chooses to be. Therefore, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgenders, marriages, thank you, we don't like it. Our people are not ready right now, and we appreciate it. We don't consider the democratic right, by the way, in Africa, because the culture is not ready. So, master of colonialism, neocolonialism, talking about the United States of America, and you're not talking about it. The interferences around the world, the problems in the Middle East, and nothing about that. The United States behind apartheid in the old South African times, and the rape crisis in America, 33,000 cases every year. Sexual assault. Sex crimes every 68 seconds in America, ladies and gentlemen. Let me continue on this. 4.67 million reported cases of theft in America in 2022. United States, the home of the largest prisoners in the world, ladies and gentlemen, 1.8 incarceration, 1.82 billion. We're only about 4.6.7 people, percentage-wise around the world, but we have the highest prisoners, okay? In 23, 4.23%. World population in America had 1.8 million prisoners. China, 17.4%, had only 1.69 million prisoners, less than the United States of America. And so did India, by the way. In Russia, there were about 433,000 prisoners. But Russians are 144 million people. 4.23% world population has incarcerated 20% of the world prisoners, ladies and gentlemen. 4.23 committee. ሃገር ስኒና 20 committee na ዓለም እስረኛታት ዝኣሰረት ኣሜሪካ. Ladies and gentlemen, drug overdose, 108,000 Americans die every year. ሓደ 108,000 ሰብ ይመውት ብድራግ. Drug driving deaths, 13.5,000 أتليس 14,000 يموتنا. زموت طرح بمكينة صغير وزوير زموت مالتي drunk driving. 393 million civilian owned guns. 393 million أبيد أمريكان صاروا مساري. كابزيوم 6 million ترحيو بفقط اليوم. 6.06 million arms are actually registered, while out of 393 million civilian-owned guns. Mr. Connell, don't you think you have to do something about this? In America, we Americans, including me, according to CDC, 71,000 violent deaths in America every year, basically. The sex industry is 14 billion. We know how our streets are in Philadelphia, California, and all over the country. Homelessness, 53,000 in 104. 653,000 homelessness. And we had about 49,500. Let me see. 49,400 suicides in America. I do believe we have a lot of work to do here in the States. Mr. Dan Connell, instead of targeting a little small country in Eritrea, okay, in the Red Sea, whatever, it's because it's strategically important to your country. What I'm trying to say is, small country is only that's only 33 years old. You're actually condemning everything, throwing everything you can against that. To my understanding, I do believe this is I think this is a selective punishment, a grudge politics, I call it. One more time, I appreciate your service to the Eritrean people, but here you're playing a very destructive role that doesn't help the Eritreans, and I appreciate you ahead of time if you listen to this. This is to my brother Dan Connell. Okay? Americans need more help from you than the Eritreans do. And the way you're trying to help the Eritreans is not going to take us a step ahead. We're not going to flinch even an inch from our principles, sir, no matter what. Our country comes first. We have to depend on our people to defend it, on our army to do what we have to do to secure it. Therefore, thank you very much. But you are very destructive in here, and I suspect a foul play, and you understand what I'm talking about. You understand what I'm talking about. You're not interested in the Eritreans' solution to their lives, sir. You are interested about something else. I'm not going to say here, but definitely the interest of the United States. Have a good day.